Hi, this is Michelle in the Children's Department at Ida Public Library for School Age Stories. This week we're going to read Recess at 20 Below by Cindy Lou Allard. This is a narrative nonfiction book, one of my favorite kinds of stories. And this here is at the beginning of the book. It shows a picture, a drawing of Alaska. Right here, Delta Junction is where this story takes place. This is a true story about kids in Alaska who go outside for recess even when it's 20 below zero. You might be asking, what does that mean, 20 below zero? Well, I made a little thermometer here for you to see. When it's 32 degrees outside, it means it's freezing. It means you could take some water and put it outside for a while and the water would turn into ice. It has to be at least 32 degrees. You got to give it a little while. If you go down here to where it's only 10 degrees, so it's less numbers, that means it's colder than 32 degrees, colder than freezing. And then at that temperature, you guys in Belvedere, you don't go outside for recess anymore. It's too cold. Down here at 20 below zero, this is where the kids in Alaska, in Delta Junction, Alaska, that's where they stay inside. Okay, so we can see they are outside for a lot longer, but there's a reason why. All right. Recess at 20 below. The cold takes my breath away and makes the inside of my nose stick together. So I tug my scarf all the way up to my eyes. The snow on the ground sparkles like diamonds and the air is filled with tiny ice crystals twinkling out of the sky. Crunch, crunch, crunch. When I walk, it sounds like I'm wading through a big bag of potato chips. No chance of sneaking up on anyone in this stuff. So sometimes snow can be crunchy. Do you know when it's crunchy? And sometimes like it's just sloshy. So when it's really cold, that's when the snow is crunchy. You might notice something else about this picture. It's dark out. I live in Alaska, right along the Alaska Highway. Winter lasts a long, long time here. It seems like forever, but really, there's only snow on the ground from September until April. September. It was still hot here in September. But sometimes we get a snowstorm in May or even August. Can you imagine getting a snowstorm in August? At our school, we go out for recess even when it is 20 degrees below zero. We have to wear a lot of clothes when it gets that freezy. Getting dressed to go out takes a long time. First, we wiggle and squirm and twist into our thick snow pants. Then we pull on winter boots and zip up our parkas as high as the zippers will go. We don't want any cold air getting in. Next come the hats. Some hats cover our whole faces so you can see only our eyes and mouths peeking out. Since we need our fingers to put on all those clothes, our mittens or gloves go on last. You probably look pretty similar when you go outside for the playground. Hats and gloves and everything. Finally, we're all ready to go outside and play, but I can hardly move in all my winter gear. I'm as big as a sumo wrestler. As I waddle down the hall, I usually see someone run back to go to the bathroom. Sure hope they make it. When we get outside, I look for my friends. All we can see is each other's eyes, so it helps to remember what colors they are wearing. Samantha reminds me of a giant pickle in her green parka, and Megan, who's dressed all in purple, looks like a jar of grape jelly. It's fun to go sledding during recess. Imagine that, sledding during recess. Every time it snows, our maintenance man clears the snow from the school parking lot and dumps it in the middle of the playground. Our sledding hill grows and grows all winter long. After a few months, it looks like Mount McKinley or Denali, the highest mountain in Alaska and all of North America. We climb to the top and jump on our sleds. Yippee! Sometimes we play on the swings, but by the middle of winter, the snow gets so deep there's no room for our legs. As you can see that there in that picture. We have to throw the swing over the top to make the change shorter. Then the teeter-totters usually freeze to the ground. Bang, bang, bang. We kick them over and over to break off the ice. Before anyone goes down the slide, it is covered with ice crystals that sparkle like glitter. It's like sliding down a glacier. When it's cold, we have to be careful never to touch our tongue on anything metal because it will stick. Then a teacher will have to use a hairdryer or pour a glass of warm water over it to get your tongue free. How embarrassing. You should keep your tongue in your mouth. And snowball fights aren't as easy as you might think when the air is so dry. When it's really, really cold, our snow is like powder. We can't even make a snowball, but we like to throw it in the air anyway. We toss up puffy snow clouds and whirling tornadoes. You might notice that sometimes when the snow is like it was like a week or so ago when it was heavy, wet snow, you can make a snowball. But the snow that came just the other day, it was dry snow, and you can't really make a snowball out of that kind of snow. When the wind blows, the snow gets packed hard, and then we can break into chunks like giant bricks. We stack the chunks to make forts that go high above our heads. Inside our forts, we keep nice and warm even when the wind is howling outside. Sometimes we make tunnels in the snow too. We pop our heads out. We look just like bear cubs spying on the action. The bad part is when the snow goes down our backs when we are tunneling. Brrr, that's cold. I've only tunneled in the snow once. I was very young and we had had 2 weeks off of school. That's how much snow there was. It was very cold and snowy. And this was like a long time ago in the 1970s. And we had lots of weeks off snow, and the snow was over my head deep. So we did build tunnels in the snow. Some days we play soccer or football during recess. Even at 20 below zero, you can get too hot. It's hard work running in big heavy boots and thick snow pants. The more we move, the warmer we get. Playing hard means breathing hard. The moisture from our breath floats up to our faces and makes our eyelashes freeze. That's really cold. They feel so thick and heavy it's hard to even keep them open. The hair around our faces also gets white with frost, so we look old and gray. Some people say that frozen hair will break if you touch it, but mine never has. Frozen eyelashes. If it's colder than 20 below zero, we have to stay inside for recess. It's too dangerous to be outside then. One day we had to stay inside, but not because it was too cold. One day we had a visitor on our playground, a moose, a very large animal, decided to show up at school that day. He wanted to munch some lunch. She came and ate the willow bushes along the fence. Moose aren't the only wild animals that come to visit. Once I saw a fox sprint through the teeter-totters. Another day, ravens attacked our soccer field. Our teacher had drawn some boundary lines with bright red Kool-Aid on the snow. The ravens swooped down and gobbled all that Kool-Aid up. Our recess is always at noon because it's the sunniest time of the day. More like early evening. It's how bright it is. So see, the sunniest time of the day looks like evening here in the winter in Alaska. The sun rises and sets in just 3 hours. 3 hours. That's not very long at all, is it? We come to school and go home in the pitch black dark. Remember that first picture on the first page? It's pitch black dark when they go to school. So only if I'm like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock. That's it. That's how long the day is for sunshine. If it's cloudy and snowing during recess, the sky gets dark even at noon, and it feels like we should get our flashlights out. But it makes for good games of hide and seek. By the time the whistle blows to go inside, our cheeks are bright red, our noses are running, and our toes are numb. We line up, we create a cloud of ice fog from everyone breathing in one spot. Our breath freezes in tiny specks of ice that hang in the cold air. You've done that. Clump, clump, clump. We sound like a bunch of elephants walking the hallways in our big, clumsy boots. When we get to class, we peel off our winter gear. A lot of us get wild hair because the hair is so dry and our hair is full of static. I bet that happens to you too. Sometimes we get a big shock as we pull off our hats. It really can zap. Look at her hair. Crazy! Our classroom sure is a mess with snow pants, parkas, mittens, hats, and boots piled all over the place. Everyone tries to hang up their stuff at once, so it's easy to get your snow gear mixed up. It seems like we spend hours hunting for the right hat or mittens to hang on our hooks. We finally settle into our chairs to begin our afternoon lessons. I stare out at the frosty window and hope it's not colder than 20 below tomorrow. I can't wait to get back outside and make sure our fort is still there. Or maybe go sledding. It won't be long until the sun will feel a tiny bit warmer during recess, and then we'll see our sledding mountain shrink, and we'll hear the drip, drip, drip of melting icicles, just like it is spring here. We'll stow away our sleds until next winter and get ready for the midnight sun to chase away the darkness. I'll explain that in a minute. One day, not too far from now, we'll be riding our bikes past 10 p.m. because the sun will only go down for 3 hours. But until then, I love recess at 20 below. So Alaska, that's the end of the book. Alaska is way, way north at the top of the world. So this line here is something called the Arctic Circle. So if you get out your globe or look at the map that I'm going to send you as a extra thing in the Google, then you can see that that part of the earth, the sun is going way down here. So when the sun goes over here, this part way up on the top of Alaska doesn't get as much sun. And that's why in the winter, they only get 3 hours of sunlight. But it also means in the summer, they only get 3 hours of semi-darkness. That's why they call it the midnight sun, because the sun is still shining at midnight. I hope you enjoyed Recess at 20 Below. Have fun in the winter, but also stay safe. Bye.